This is Beering Ain't Easy. Do you spend all week thinking about what new beer you'll try next? Then yeah, this podcast is for you. Come join us while we try new beers, share our ratings, debate craft beer culture, and in the process, throw a few jabs at ourselves. So crack one if you got one, and turn it up.
Welcome to Beering Ain't Easy, episode number 30 with Adam and Drew.
The Dirty 30.
The Dirty 30.
I feel like as you get older, which is a great topic for today's episode, you try to come up with things that sound like somewhat cool when you hit different age ranges. So when you're hit 30, you're like, oh, it's the Dirty 30. And you're like 40, you're like, oh yeah, it's the fabulous 40s or something. You're just getting old, motherfucker.
So the Dirty 30 doesn't remind me of the age at all. It reminds me of college.
How so?
The 30 packs of those,
I gotcha.
Those dirty beers.
I feel like we use Dirty 30 as a way to like make ourselves feel better about leaving the 20s and going into the 30s. So, oh yeah, the Dirty 30s. Yeah. But then you just realize kids come along and then all the fun just starts evaporating away.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to switch things up a little bit today. I am empty, so we're going to have to introduce the beer right away so I can crack my beer.
Heck yeah.
All right. I'll crack it. You tell them about it.
All right. So today we're back to Houston and we are drinking a Great Heights Brewing Company beer. This is the Blue Tile IPA. Since the last episode, I've had a newborn and getting a little less sleep than normal. But this was our first outing with the newborn out. We got to go check out Great Heights Brewing, got a flight, got to check out Brashland.
So did you take the baby to the brewery?
Oh, yeah. 2 older kids were in school. Baby went to the brewery and got a flight. That's not something I would have done.
Did Meredith come with you?
I did, yeah, of course. But
that's like dad duty. It's like, come on, baby.
Yeah, it's like, come on, strap up. We're going to D&Q. Yeah. We're going to the brewery. You better hold your liquor. All right, no. That's something that probably wouldn't have done with the first kid, but the third kid, it's fair game.
It's a whole new game with the third kid. I find myself saying that literally every day with the third kid. Like, we surely wouldn't have done this with the first 2, but here we are.
Yeah. So one thing when I'm looking at this this IPA, are you familiar, just from a Houston trivia moment here, are you familiar with the blue tiles? Have you ever seen?
No, I'm not.
So if you drive around like inside the loop in some of the older parts of Houston, you'll see the corners of streets, they'll have the street number on the curb and it's out of blue tiles.
Like actual tile?
Yeah.
Like in the curb?
Right. So I think it was...
Okay, that's cool.
I think they put them in like in the 20s and 30s. And so like there's this whole restoration project where they've gone around and tried to restore it. So that's the theme on it. So I'm digging the can. This was the only beer, I think, out of the flight of tasters that I got this week that did not try. So I'm looking forward to it.
So one other thing has changed since our last episode was recorded. And that is I took a month off of drinking beer or any alcohol.
It's borderline insanity.
It was the first time I've done that, probably since the first sip of alcohol I've ever taken.
Nice.
Have you ever taken a month off, like since you first started drinking?
I think so. And I think that like is a great segue into our episode today when we talk a little later, is that with our first kid, like I feel like I went months, maybe like had a beer or 2 there, but like really just out of the beer game for like long swath of time. So more to come on that topic.
Interesting. I don't think I did that with the first, but it was all a blur, so I don't remember.
Yeah. It's hard to say though, because I was drinking a whole lot before the kid was born. So it may be that I just went to normal after that and it just felt like I wasn't drinking anymore.
Yeah. So it was a very interesting experience for me. The one question I had is how bad would I crave beer throughout the whole time? And so like one thing I thought was interesting, like the first Thursday into it was when I craved beer the most. So like as I went longer without beer, I started to crave it less.
That's interesting. I think we predicted that may have been the case, but it's interesting to hear you say that. So if you're trying to take a little time off, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Hang in there. Hang in there. Yeah, so like it was like the first Thursday, which I'm pretty religious about having an IPA on Thursday nights, as I think everyone knows by now who's listening to the podcast.
One of your only tenants, religious tenants, I think.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 days into it. It's like a Thursday night, and I'm just like, God damn, I need an IPA. And I'm like, this is going to be a long month.
And that's when we did the episode, and we gave you that IPA.
And it didn't do it for me. Which brings me to my second lesson learned. There are beers, non-alcoholic beers, that will satisfy your beer craving if
Really?
you
Like
take a month off.
Which ones were the best? I know you tried like a whole bunch over the month.
I tried quite a few. They were all kind of lumped together. So IPAs were not good.
Yeah, scratch.
So we covered that on our non-alcoholic beer episode, and I didn't buy another one after that because it was not good. The blondes, there was a couple different blondes that were okay, but lagers, there's some pretty good lagers. So O'Doul's actually really hit the spot for me.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And then Heineken has like a 0.0. It's like Heineken 0.0.
Mm-hmm.
And that really hit the spot. And then Beck's has a non-alcoholic beer.
Oh, so the big box European brewers here.
They were coming through. And so near the last 2 weeks, I was having, 2 or 3
per hour. Like the guy or the story that you told about hammering the non-alcoholic beers.
So after I went through this, I now get it.
Yeah.
Like I could see myself like drinking, like going and playing cornhole, and drinking a 6-pack of non-alcoholic beers. Yeah. Where like at the time I was like, this guy's fucking crazy. Like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But it just like it kind of just goes down where I never thought it would. I thought it'd feel like forced.
That's what she said. Oh, so O'Doul rules, huh?
I think O'Doul's was the one that wins. But I guess like I'm not that surprised because like when you think about non-alcoholic beers, they're the king of non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah, they've been in the game longer than the rest of us remember, yeah. All right. So I think we've talked enough about non-alcoholic beers.
More than we ever thought we would on this podcast.
No joke. So I think we got to circle back to the topic of today, and I think we hinted on it in our last episode, but me having a newborn and being 5 years removed from my second youngest, I think today we need to talk a little bit about what's the difference of being a parent with your third kid versus your first, because both Adam and I have got 3 kids. And I will say that life is a little bit different with the first than it is with the third.
Whole nother level of relaxation.
I feel like I'll kick us off just with one thought. With your first kid, you're a lot more of a helicopter parent. Like both of you are just like ultra sensitive. It's like, oh, is the baby okay? We need to both be on the hook. You're like, you have like 4 times more stuff that you need. And then you're both stay near the baby and you're both sacrificing your sleep like nonstop. I felt like we both were like getting up with every feeding. And I was like, why were we doing that? It was like we both were exhausted. I felt like I was a zombie for like 6 months. That's why I didn't drink a whole lot the first 6 months because I was getting sub 5 hours of sleep. And so now with my third, we're on a shift schedule. Like I go sleep in another room and get like 5 or 6 hours straight of sleep. My wife takes a shift and then I take the baby early in the morning. And then like we both have way more sleep, which is absolutely needed though, because with 8 years removed from my oldest and my youngest, I remember thinking that I could get a lot less sleep and function way better when I was younger. Now I'm just like this cranky old guy if I get less than 6 hours of sleep. So it's kind of a balancing act. You get more sleep, but you need more sleep.
So what would the Drew who's had 3 kids tell the Drew that was about to have their first kid?
I'd be like, just relax, man.
Don't be a fucking dumbass and get up all day.
Yeah. I'd put on some Bob Marley and I'd be like, everything gonna be all right.
So I thought like when we had our third kid, our level of like relaxation and chill was just like 10 times that of even our second kid. Like I feel like the third, it's like a whole new level.
So like one of my favorite comedians is Jim Gaffigan. Have you ever listened to him before?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. There's this one skit, like, cause he's got like 5 kids or 6 kids. I can't remember. And he has this like skit where he's talking about like, you know, by the time you get to your 3rd or 4th kid, you're like, you know, he like talks about naming them after a sandwich. Like the first kid, you're named after your grandma. The second kid, you're named after your aunt. You're named after the sandwich I ate. But then it's like, the kid starts coming and complain to you, and you're like, why don't you just go smoke pot like your brother and become third kid? He's like, whatever. You'll survive.
You'll survive. I say that all the time.
What other observations have you had with a third that has been different for you?
Jody and I were talking about this today. Like even with our third, it was like when we just had 2 kids, like life was so fucking easy.
Yeah. It is a whole nother element. Like you come home and it's like, okay, well, we still got to get the 2 older kids dinner. We still got to make sure homework's done. We got to do all this other stuff. And then there's a baby that's going to like screw your sleep over. So it's like, how do you have you don't have time for yourself? You know, that's, you know, this podcast, carving out this podcast time. I mean, this is our 3rd try at it. You know,
yeah.
We've tried 3 times and it just hasn't worked on the other 2. So
yeah,
I'm just waiting for the baby to start screaming any minute.
Don't do it, baby.
So I feel like I just got to go right into it. I got a story.
Okay, let's hear it. Hear it.
First time and third time kid. So I mentioned didn't drink a lot for the first 6 months because our first was pretty colicky. She did not sleep much through the night. And so because of that, both Meredith and I did not sleep a lot through the night. And so
amateur move.
So we didn't drink a lot until Meredith took our first back to Houston. We were living in California. And the buddies, which in California, everyone gets married later. They have kids later. So all of my coworkers were younger or the same age, but no kids, right? So they were all still living that bar life. And so they're like, hey, you want to go out? And I was like, heck yeah. But
heck yeah.
I'd spent 6 months like losing my tolerance for alcohol, right? And so what did we do? We went straight to Benihana's, or my friend Kyle used to call Benihan's. And we started with sake bombs. So sake bombs at 5:30 p.m. So that's like, you can imagine.
Winning recipe.
Yeah, you know where this is going, right? So sake bombs at 5:30. Then we had another coworker that did homebrew. So we went to go taste his homebrew at his house. And then we walked to a couple bars and we ended up to this place called Dan's that always had this like 80s band that would do cover stuff. In my entire, I guess, experience at bars, I've never been kicked out of a bar except for that night. So, and it wasn't because I, got in a fight or something like that.
Yeah, that's the question everyone is wondering. Yeah. It's like, what the hell did you do?
Yeah, to get kicked out. I basically just couldn't handle my liquor is why I got kicked out.
Just like stumbling around and shit.
Well, I walked in and like the first thing one of my buddies was like, hey, the Oakland A's are playing. They just won. I'm buying a round of shots. So I remember the shots and I remember having a beer on the dance floor. And I've never had this happen to me before, but the pint glass.
You dropped it.
I did not drop I've had that happen multiple times. But I was holding the pint glass and it cracked in my hand. Like the pint glass, like I was gripping it so hard that it broke.
Oh my God. So did you like cut your hand?
I don't think so, but like it broke. And then I thought it was funny. So I took a sip out of it with it broken. And then apparently I was like swaying back and forth in the bar and I was kindly escorted outside. And Meredith came home and she's like so mad at me for like just being completely irresponsible. And I was just like, oh man, I just felt just god awful the next day. I was like, what did I do? Whereas now I go to a brewery, baby's not even a month old, and we're taking a flight at Great Heights, So to me, that's the first, third spectrum there.
Okay, so I have a question. Have you ever been kicked out of a bar or restaurant? with your kids?
I can't say that I have. Have you?
Yeah. So when we lived in Las Vegas, we were flying somewhere, and like you in Vegas, like you just get used to this alcohol with you anywhere lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so like you forget what it's like when you go other places. So like we were on a connecting flight through some airport. We just like brought our kids in and like we're drinking a beer somewhere, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you have to be 21 to be in here. And it's like, well, we just have like our 1.5-year-old, so it's fine.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you need to leave. It's like, that was like such a aha moment. Like we've just gotten used to like living in Vegas where there are no rules about like stuff like that.
If you can take a pacifier, you can take a shot.
Yeah, if you can take a pacifier, you can take a shot, and you surely aren't getting kicked out of the bar because you have someone with you who has a pacifier.
Yeah. Do you think it was actually the management that was doing that, or do you think there was a patron that was giving? You know how there's those patrons that really hate kids?
Yeah.
Do you think that they were like, excuse me, like some Karen over there? Yeah. Can I see the manager? This guy's got a baby.
It's affecting my ability to drink my beer.
Fuck those guys.
Fuck them. I remember like when I first had kids, how I felt like before I had kids, I needed like 7 hours of sleep to function. Then you have that first kid and it's like 4 hours of sleep and like you're rock solid, at least for a while. How do you feel like you are now? Because you probably retrained your body to get sleep.
Yeah.
And so are you dying now, or what's that like?
Oh, man, like that's what I was saying is like if I get less than 6 hours of sleep right now, I feel like I can't function. And I'm like, that's weak sauce.
It's that old man body.
Yeah. But if I get 6 hours, I'm good. But it's like if I'm like 5.5, I'm like at work, I'm like hammering 4 coffees, like, get off my lawn. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that.
I think I know the problem. You're old now.
I'm almost to my fabulous 40s. What are you talking about? I will say on this third kid that you would have thought, like having 2 other kids, that you have all the shit that you need for babies. But like I quickly was re-educated by my sister-in-law and brother-in-law and stuff. There's just all these new fancy gadgets out there that's like, oh no, your monitor's not good enough. You need the video monitor that's HD, and it can, it's got a drone that can fly over your baby while it's sleeping. Why do we need a new bassinet? Okay, speaking of bassinet, so we have this thing. It's fucking work of science. It's called the snoo, and it's a self-rocking bassinet. And so, like, you put the baby in there, you put it in the baby straitjacket, and it's got 2 flaps on it that you attach to either side of this bassinet, and then you hit a button, and it, like, rocks it side to side. And then if the baby starts getting really fussy, it, like, rocks it harder until it gets to the point where it's like, you guys need to really come check on your kid. But, like, the scientist or whatever is like, oh yeah, this is sworn you'll get more hours of sleep. And I'm like, do we need this thing? But it's super expensive to buy. And so, but you can rent it by the month. And
Did you rent it?
We're renting this crib by the month. And I'm like, we'll probably pay for the motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
By the time it's over. Because we'll like convince ourselves that this mechanical shaking is getting us more sleep in the middle of the night. So
shaken baby syndrome.
Oh my God. We've bought a bunch of shit that I thought I was like, especially 3 girls, you're like, we don't have to rebuy anything, right? No. We got the snoo.
Oh, you're falling for it. You got suckered.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're too veteran to be suckered.
I know. But these like first time parents are like, oh, this was such a lifesaver for me. And we've waited 5 years. So it's like we've forgotten that all that stuff's just a bunch of money sink.
Yeah, a bunch of BS.
Did you even heard of something like that? I mean,
no, but just like from my experience, I remember like how much the technology changed in those 6 years. Yeah. Like with Kinley, it was the baby monitor, like it was like sound only, and like we had like little like it was like a walkie-talkie basically. Right. Where like with Carver, it was like the full video app, and like it would like monitor his breathing, and like if he stopped, like if it saw something, we had like a couple false alarms where like in the middle of the night, like our phone just started like going crazy.
Not breathing. Oh God. Yeah, technology can backfire, but
yeah. But then this is a perfect third child story. So we had that, and like we were like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And so like if he ever made sound or something, we'd look at our phone and see him. And then like that company got bought out by someone like a year into his life, and they stopped supporting that app. And so we didn't have that app anymore. Yeah. And we're just like, fuck it. He's all right. He doesn't need a baby monitor. And so we never got another baby monitor.
That's funny. So I think we should like get back to talking about these beers. What do you think?
Okay. I think everyone's getting sick of listening to our bullshit.
Let's bring on those ratings. So what I like about Great Heights is you and I love some hazies, right? I mean, there's some good hazies out there. And Great Heights has a hazy that I had this weekend called Fruity Pellets, which is pretty good. But they make a lot of West Coast style IPAs, and I think they're pretty darn good. Got a little bit of dankness. This one's easy drinker. I like it.
Yeah, this is a good beer. It has a good floral nose to it. It's definitely more of the West Coast style than the hazy. Although it does have a little bit of a hazy appearance to it.
Yeah. I almost get like a grapefruit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm glad I brought this one because the blue tile thing is actually pretty cool, but I really wanted to bring home a beer. They've got a beer called the 610, and the can, I saw the can art, and it was just, the interstate sign for 610, and I was like, oh, I got to get that beer. That's amazing. I saw
that. That was cool.
But they were down to their last keg, and so they couldn't fill the crowler with it. They had no cans. But I had that small taster of that one. If you're listening and you're in Houston, when that comes back on, go get the 610 as well. It was fantastic.
Yeah, this has all the typical West Coast characteristics.
It's got that West Coast IPA flavor. So this is like the first beer I'm drinking, but I feel like I'm probably as loopy as Adam, and he's been pre-gaming over at our neighbor's house. But that comes with the territory, less sleep. I got to say, going out with the baby and Meredith on Friday, since COVID, I have not gotten a flight, like a tasting flight.
Yeah.
And so I got my first shot of the Vax last week. I feel like there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like
it's coming.
So many of those breweries have expanded their patios because of COVID. So like Great Heights has got the front patio, the back patio, had it all open. The weather was nice, and we were drinking, and I was like, this is straight freedom right here.
So I've never been to Great Heights.
It's nice. And honestly, like I didn't really have a beer that I didn't like there, so it was a good experience.
Yeah, I saw your ratings. It's making me.
Yeah, make you want to go, huh?
Yeah.
You got to get on the 610, bro.
Got to get on the 610. Are we ready to talk ratings?
I think so.
What are you going with?
Almost every beer that I had from Great Heights the other day, I rated a 4.0, and I'm sticking with it. I think that this is a solid West Coast IPA. I'm digging it. This one's not a one and done.
Yeah, this is a good beer. I'm going a 4.0. It's definitely a good West Coast IPA. I'd buy it again, and that's saying something.
Not that I'm getting off of hazies, but I feel like I've been craving other types of beer other than hazies just to change it up, because been a lot of hazies and a lot of sours in my fridge, and I just need to. I went there and I was like, I picked out like 4 different West Coast IPAs. I was like, oh, this is nice. I need to stay here for a little while.
How does this one stack up to the others that you had there?
Honestly, I think that 610 was my favorite. It was the dankest, and I like a good dank IPA.
Oh yeah,
and so like sure. I felt like the 610 was my favorite. They also make one that they've been making for a while called Denali. I think the Denali may slightly edge out Blue Tile, but this one's kind of like Art Car to me, where I feel like I could drink this one all night. Like I could just grab a 4-pack of this and just stick with it, because it's that type of beer.
Yeah, definitely very drinkable.
Definitely a fan. It's the first podcast we've done where I came coordinated.
Did you buy that shirt while you were there?
I asked for a bunch of shirts over Christmas, and so I got a Great Heights shirt over Christmas, and I didn't want to wear it to the actual brewery because then they'd think I was fucking staff.
That's pathetic.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm the super fan.
hey, I need another beer.
Yeah. Maybe I could have gotten the 610 and a crowler if I'd been wearing the shirt, though.
You should have just worn the shirt, walked your ass back there, and poured one.
Yeah, it's like, hey, go take 5 restroom break. I got the bar.
What do you think? I would wear the brewery shirt to the brewery?
Oh, man. I think that's a wrap.
I think that's a wrap. And so now the audience knows what to expect if they have a third child.
Yeah, and they know it just keeps getting better with how many kids you have. So Adam will have 5 in no time.
I will not.
So I think next week I've been sitting on some beers that been dying to open up. And Adam, since he was doing the sabbatical on beer, he didn't want to jump right into the funky shit. But I think next week is the time we got to jump into Martin House. We've got a full array of some weird ass beers by Martin House, and we're gonna take the taste test. So if you got a little tired of the family talk today, then it's all beer talk next week.
All beer talk. All right. See y'all next time.
This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production in Houston, Texas. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you want to see what we're drinking, our untapped handles are Beering Ain't Easy Adam and Beering Ain't Easy Drew.